What's the smartest joke you've ever heard? 3 logicians walk into a bar. The bartender says you will want a beer. First guy says I don't know. Second guy says I don't know. Third guy says yes. A physicist, a biologist and a statistician go hunting, and as they are hiding in the bushes they see a deer 70 feet ahead of them. The physicist makes some calculations, aims and fires at the deer. His shot ends up 5 feet to the left of his target. The biologist analyzes the deer's movement, aims and fires. His shot ends up 5 feet to the right of the deer. The statistician shouts, "We got it." Woman goes to the library to get a book for her child. She tells the librarian she doesn't know the title. The librarian asks what the book is about. The woman replies it's about Pavlov's dog and Schrödinger's cat. They go on an adventure. The librarian says it rings a bell, but I don't know if we have it or not. While out driving, Werner Heisenberg is pulled over by the police for speeding. The cop says, "Do you know how fast you were going when I pulled you over?" Werner replies, "No, but I know exactly where I was." The cop says, "You were driving 90 miles an hour. Werner replies, "Oh great, now we are lost." A physicist, a biologist and a mathematician are sitting in a street cafe watching people entering and leaving the house on the other side of the street. First they see 2 people entering the house. Time passes. After a while they notice 3 people leaving the house. The physicist says, "The measurement wasn't accurate." The biologist says, "They must have reproduced." The mathematician says, "If one more person enters the house then it will be empty." Guy yells to a stranger across the river, "I need to get to the other side." Stranger yells back, "You are on the other side." The floodwaters recede. The ark comes to rest, and Noah opens the doors to let out the animals. As time goes by, nature takes its course, and pairs of animals begin to repopulate the world. All the animals, that is, except one pair of snakes. Noticing that the snakes seem to be having trouble, Noah asks whether there's anything he can do to help. The male snake says, "Yes, as a matter of fact, it would be a big help if you could cut down those trees over there." Noah was of course puzzled. How would cutting down some trees help? But he didn't want to pry, so he did it without question. A short time later, Noah returned to discover a nest full of baby snakes and a proud mommy snake and daddy snake. At that point, his curiosity got the better of him and he asked, "Why the trees?" "Oh," said the male snake, "we are adders and we need logs to multiply." What's blue and bad for your teeth? A brick flying at 9/10 the speed of light. A physicist, an engineer, and a mathematician, or going on a trip. They go to a hotel and each get separate rooms. The mathematician can't sleep and is looking out his window at the other 2 rooms. Suddenly a fire breaks out in the chemist's room. The smoke alarm wakes him. He sees the fire, and he thinks about the chemical reactions at play. Knowing the reaction needs air, he throws a blanket over the fire and puts it out. The mathematician is relieved. Suddenly, another fire breaks out, but in the engineer's room. The engineer is awoken and thinks about the proper way to handle it. He finds the correct fire extinguisher and correctly uses it to put out the fire. Again, the mathematician is relieved. The mathematician is tired and about to go to bed when all of a sudden a fire breaks out in his own room. Knowing that there are multiple solutions to the problem, the mathematician feels at ease and goes to bed. Street. Peter was guarding the pearly gates, waiting for new souls coming to heaven. He saw Jesus walking by and caught his attention. "Jesus, could you mind the gate while I go do an errand?" "Sure," replied Jesus. "What do I have to do?" "Just find out about the people who arrive. Ask about their background, their family, and their lives. Then decide if they deserve entry into heaven." Sounds easy enough. Okay, so Jesus manned the gates for Street. Peter, the first person to approach the gates, was a wrinkled old man. Jesus summoned him to sit down and sat across from him. Jesus peered at the old man and asked, "What did you do for a living?" The old man replied, "I was a carpenter." Jesus remembered his own earthly existence and leaned forward. "Did you have any family?" he asked. "Yes, I had a son, but I lost him." Jesus leaned forward some more. "You lost your son. Can you tell me about him?" "Well, he had holes in his hands and feet and was known the whole world over." Jesus leaned forward even more and whispered, "Father." The old man leaned forward with tears in his eyes and whispered, "Pinocchio." A farmer challenges an engineer, a physicist, and a mathematician to fence off the largest amount of area using the least amount of fence. The engineer makes his fence in a circle and said it is the most efficient. The physicist makes a long line and says that the length is infinite and that fencing half of the earth is the best. The mathematician thinks for a minute, then constructs a tiny fence around himself and says, I declare myself to be outside of the fence. Your mother is so slow it took her 9 months to make a joke. Helium walks into a bar. The bartender says, we don't serve your kind here. Helium doesn't react. 2 atoms are walking down the street. One bumps into the other. Shh, I lost an electron. Are you sure? I'm positive. A mathematician and an engineer are at a bar. At the other end of the bar is a very expensive bottle of whiskey. The bartender offers them a bet. For each dollar they bet, they can cross half the distance to the whiskey. If they reach the whiskey, it's all fizz. The mathematician says no bet, but the engineer immediately slaps down $5. What are you doing? The mathematician asks. Don't you know it's a sucker's game? If you can only ever cross half the distance, you'll never reach the bottle. That's true. The engineer replied, but I bet after 5 halvings I can get close enough for practical purposes. There are 10 kinds of people, those who understand binary and those who do not. An infinite number of mathematicians walk into a bar. The first one orders a beer, the second one orders half a beer, the third one orders 1/4 of a beer, the fourth one orders 1/8 of a beer. Then the barman snaps and says, okay, I see how it is. Here's 2 beers, you split them, and leave me out of this. Why did the chicken cross the road? It only occurred to me recently that to get to the other side meant both reaching the far pavement and dying and passing over to the other side, meaning it got ran over. The bartender says, no time travelers allowed. A time traveler walks into a bar. Here's another. A man walks into his house with a duck under his arm. He walks up to his wife with it and says, this is a pig, I've been *king. His wife says, that's a duck. He quickly replies, I wasn't talking to you. A Polish man is on his farm and finds a lamp. He takes the lamp, rubs it, and a genie appears from within the lamp. He says, I grant you 3 wishes. You cannot wish for love, more wishes, or immortality. The Polish man immediately responds and says, I want China to invade Poland. The genie, confused, tells him his wish is granted. Around 20 minutes later, planes, soldiers, weapons, bombs, rifles, bullets, smoke, fire and death are destroying Poland. Despite the state of his country, his land, his pride, he is laughing hysterically. The genie, now very concerned and even more confused, asks him what his second wish is. He asks for China to invade Poland again. 20 minutes later, planes, soldiers, weapons, bombs, rifles, bullets, smoke, fire and death are again tearing his homeland to shreds. Towns in smoke, buildings and land destroyed and mangled. Yet the man stands on his farm laughing. The genie, now thinking this man is mentally ill and sociopathic, asks him what his third and final wish will be. Again, he says he wants China to invade Poland. 20 minutes later, planes, soldiers, weapons, bombs, rifles, bullets, smoke, fire and death are again tearing his homeland to shreds. Everything, totally destroyed and reduced to ash. Poland is completely gone. The Polish man is again still laughing hysterically. The genie asks the man why he hates his country so much. The man says he doesn't hate his country. China has to get through Russia first. My Polish grandfather was the first to tell me this joke, and I didn't understand then, but it makes far more sense looking back now, haha.